I am Michelle Chalfant, psychotherapist, holistic life coach, and human just like you, learning to navigate life's challenges. With over 25 years experience, I teach people how to get healthy using the adult chair model. The adult chair model is where simple psychology meets grounded spirituality, and it teaches us how to become healthy adults. From anxiety and depression to codependency and relationship issues, you can use the adult chair for just about anything. Each week, I share practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and a wide range of experts on how to get unstuck, how to live authentically, and how to truly love yourself, all while sitting in your adult chair. Welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair Podcast. I am Michelle Chalfant. Boy, oh boy, do I have a show for you today. Yeah, we are talking today about boundaries, and I had a very raw and candid and vulnerable conversation with a friend of mine that was sharing with me how her holidays went with boundaries. Okay. This was someone that, it's what I call a sneak attack. You've heard me on other shows where when someone starts sharing something with me that is, I think, helpful to others, then I record. I just hit record and away we go. And many of those times I use this as a podcast if it's going to help others. And this is one, let me tell you, this might be one of my top podcasts. This is one of my favorite podcasts because my friend goes through what it was like to grow up in a household with parents that didn't validate her, with parents that it was all about her parents. So she wasn't allowed to feel a certain way. Her parents wanted her to really make it about them. So she wasn't allowed to have boundaries. She wasn't allowed to have opinions, and she wasn't allowed to have emotions around anything unless it would serve her parents. So that's how she grew up. That's programming that we get as children. And then as an adult, her parents were doing things and saying things to her that were really, really hurtful, and she didn't know what to do. So when she and I met just a couple years ago, I spoke with her around setting boundaries. I said, well, this is all about boundaries. And so she talks about her journey of what that was like for her as far as how to really find out what she was feeling, and then how and her limitations, like what she was going to limit her parents from saying to her and from doing. Anyway, she goes into her whole story. You guys are going to love this show. She is raw. She shares everything that she went through. But the thing that I loved the most was how her journey of building up herself. She had to learn what she was feeling. She had to learn what her limitations were again, and her limits with her parents. And she talks about it. So cannot wait. Boundaries are a topic that it's one of the topics that I'm really passionate about, because I realize most of us don't grow up learning healthy boundaries. I didn't. I know so many people. For 25 years, I've worked with clients on this. This is how you set healthy boundaries. And something that I've learned over the years is that in order to set healthy boundaries, there are many things that go into it, but we have to have a solid self-worth. If without that, it's very difficult to set a boundary. It's one thing I can give you the words, but if you don't feel good about yourself, there's an energy that needs to line up behind those words so that your boundary is solid. And it's the people that set boundaries that are empty as far as the energy goes that say to me, well, boundaries don't work. Well, they do work if you have the energy behind it, and the energy comes from self-worth. So what I've done is I've created for you guys a self-worth. It's a little bundle of 4 meditations that are targeted for building self-worth. So I go into changing your limiting beliefs and programs from childhood. I go into empowerment. I go into finding true self. You're going to love these meditations. And the companion to the meditations are journaling prompts. So this bundle takes you on a dive into self so you can build up self-worth so you can set healthy boundaries. So you can find that bundle at theadultchair.com/worthy, WORTHY. So theadultchair.com/worthy to grab that bundle. But I'm so excited to have my friend on the show explaining to you how she really found herself, built up her self-worth, and was able to set boundaries and turn her holidays around with her parents. It is a beautiful, beautiful story. I look forward to hearing from you guys. I want to know how you like this show and how you are now going to apply the same things that she did in your own life to change how you show up with your own boundaries. So here we go with my friend, Rebecca. So welcome to the Adult Chair podcast, Rebecca.
Hello.
Hello, hello. I know that this is, I'm going to say a little, how do you feel?
How do I feel? I feel, honestly, I feel empowered right now.
Okay. Well, I mean, about how do you feel about being on the podcast? Because this is, I'm going to tell everybody it's a sneak attack.
I feel nervous. What are you talking about? I'm super nervous. Nervous, scared, all of that. So I'm nervous.
Yeah, I figured. So I want to say thank you because your message right now is, boy, what you're about to talk about is huge and is going to impact and influence and help so many people. And I can't even tell you how excited I am to hear you say that you feel empowered, because I know you have not felt empowered in a very long time when it comes to this situation. So, just a little background. So this is my friend, Rebecca. We've known each other almost 2 years, right? Is that almost two years? And when we met, you took or you really liked the podcast and the Adult Chair, and you started really applying everything that's within this method of living as a healthy adult. So, and you and I have talked a lot about your family of origin and how difficult it's been for you. And you have done an unbelievable job with transforming your relationship. Would you say? What, maybe that's the wrong word. Stepping into your power when it comes to boundaries and finding your truth. So this podcast today is all about boundaries, really living from truth, and so many other things. But is there anything that you want to say before we jump into your story and all that?
No, I didn't know what a true boundary was before all of this. So I think now, understanding what a boundary is and the power of a boundary for yourself just is really what gave me what I needed to get through everything.
So let's give everyone a little bit of background about our relationship. So actually, a good friend of mine had suggested that you and I meet a while back, and suggested that you and I talk about your family. You were wondering maybe if I did sessions or something like that. And at the time I didn't, but I said I'd be happy just to talk to you. And we chatted, and you were telling me you were having a really difficult time around boundaries with your family, with your parents in particular, right? Do you want to give us a little bit of background about your family and your parents and what was going on?
My parents just never respected me as an adult and as a parent. They always overparented me and always, if I would stick up for myself, it was that I was hurting them. And so I would make myself small and make sure that I didn't hurt them, because as a kid, you never want to hurt your parents. They would tell me that I would hurt them, and it would just break my heart because as a child and me having, kids myself, you never want your kids to truly hurt you. But when I became a parent, my thing was, I don't want my kids to worry about hurting me. Like, I'm an adult, and what I went through as a child, growing up, and not even through my adult years, very recently, my parents and I had an altercation about something that was said, and I stood up for myself, and it turned around being that I was being rude and selfish and disrespecting them for sticking up for something that was said. And so I shut down. And so that was a little bit about what's going on with, my parents, and how I learned that living that way was not healthy. That was not something that I should be doing as just a person in general. your happiness should be you and yourself only. Not really worried about what other people are wanting or how other people feel. Other people cannot make you happy. So I was, if I hurt my parents, then I was sad. And if my parents were upset with me, then I was hurt. And I always made sure they were happy. And if they were happy, I was happy.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for all that. That was really good. When you and I discussed this, you had shared with me, you were wondering, like, I remember they were giving you was that the silent treatment? Is that what was happening?
They were. I had asked them after, the altercation that we had. It was just a verbal altercation, but I had asked them for some space, and their
They had said
space.
something that was hurtful to your children or your child, right?
That's correct. They had told my one of my children some very hurtful things, and so I stood up for them, and I was told that that was not good,
Mm-hmm.
and
It was
that
not
I should have never.
okay. Yeah.
It was not okay to stick up to my parents for what they told my daughter.
And then they gave you the silent treatment. And then they just stopped talking to you. And that was when then you and I had a discussion around this, like, what the heck is going on? And how do you move forward is what happened. Like, so how, and that was like 6 months ago or so, right? That happened. How do we move forward then if they're treating me like this? So we first had to figure out, you would realize then, perhaps, again, I think people know I don't like labels, but it does help us to understand why people show up the way that they do, whether it be ourselves or other people. Why is so-and-so treating me like this? How do I navigate this relationship when I'm being treated in this way? So once we figure that out, it's like, oh, now I know what's going on. And we figured out probably, and without sitting down, of course, with your mom or your dad, I don't know but we can guess based on all the history that you had with them. What would you say about your mom?
She has a lot of narcissistic tendencies.
Yeah, there are
Like
definitely
a lot of traits.
lot of traits for sure, for sure. And your dad was more of the codependent. Is that what we thought?
Yes, ma'am. Like that, we thought that he picked up a lot of her traits. So when she couldn't give those traits, or I don't know how to really explain it, but when she wasn't doing the traits that she was normally doing, he would kind of stick up and kind of be that person who would meet her. And so they became almost like the same personality, really.
Like he
Which
kind
is
of
what
morphed. Yeah, go ahead.
correct. Which is what a codependent is, right? They morph into, and that was something I had to learn. So
Anyway, so it's pretty sticky is the bottom line here, really sticky for you. And you weren't sure how to move forward. And so here we are. So then you guys weren't speaking at all. So when we were just talking now, I said, tell me, how were your holidays? What went on? I know you haven't been speaking to your parents, or they weren't speaking to you. It was just like a kind of like a no contact thing, but that was something that they had put their wall up. So you were sharing with me that they had reached out wondering about holidays, like what you're doing. So let us know what happened for you, because you've done a big 180-degree shift here. So talk about that if you wouldn't mind.
So I went into the holidays. So we decided to take just one day. I could give them one day. That's all I could do. More personally, I didn't want to give them more because I wasn't technically ready. I wasn't sure how it was going to go about. So I gave them one day. But before that one day, I told myself, I journaled about it. I journaled, how was I going to act? Like, what was I going to do? Because I needed to take care of myself. Going into like seeing them, it was always, I was worried about them, but no one would take care of me. So their words would cut, and I would take them. So I said, how am I going to take care of myself? I'm taking my kids, I'm taking my husband, and I need to make sure that I am strong enough for all of this. So I journaled. I said that I was going to keep my boundaries. I was going to let them know what I wanted and how I wanted to be treated. And if they said something that went against then I would tell them I didn't like it. And if they could not fix it, I would leave. I was not going to stay there, which is a big change for me. That is something that would have never happened. But I was after listening to the adult chair and applying it, I realized that, you know what? I need to take care of myself because no one else is going to take care of me.
That's a
And
powerful statement. I hope everyone hears that. Can you say it again?
I need to take care of myself because no one will take care of me.
True. And again, and that doesn't mean that we don't have people around us that love us and care about us, right? I care about you. Like I'll do what I can for you, right? But the bottom line is we need to know inside of ourselves what's important to us, what our values are, what our beliefs are, and what we will tolerate. What's okay with me and what's not okay with me. Because what's okay for me and not okay for me might be different than you and is different than your mom and my mom and all, we can put 100 people in front of us and it's different. So the most important thing is figuring out what in the world is important for me. Because I can't set a boundary. And I teach this when I talk about boundaries. We can't set boundaries effectively. And what you did for the first time is set an effective boundary. We can't set effective, strong, clear boundaries if we don't know what we value inside and who we are on the inside. Otherwise, it's just empty words and they're not strong, clear boundaries. So I love that you sat, you journaled, you got in touch with what's important for you. Beautiful job there.
Yes, my big thing was, how do I want to feel while I'm there? That was my big thing. Do I want to feel small? Do I want to feel like I'm going back to that little girl getting yelled at by her parents? Or do I want to feel respected, an adult, a parent? And I had to figure out, how do I get that? Like, how do I get that? And I remember one thing you always say is, you have to tell people how you want to be treated for them to treat you that way. And you have to have that presence. And, those were big things. Those words were just coming into, and I was like, okay, I know what I want and I'm ready. So I told my husband, I'm ready to go. Let's go. And he said, okay, let's go. And we went. We went.
And how did it go?
And it was amazing.
Did you ever think that word would come out of your mouth?
No, me going home and visiting and coming out being an amazing trip. No, never. Never, never, never.
So happy. Tell us a little bit about it. Yeah.
So I went and I was like, no, I knew what I wanted. I knew how I felt. I felt tall and I felt big, and I was like, you know what? I don't care what comes at me. I'm not going to let that change what I want out of this trip or how I want to be treated. And they had their ways, they had their words, and they would come at me and I would stick my ground. Something I've never done. I would stick my ground. I would stand tall and I would say no, and not in a mean way, but like in a stern, no, I'm so sorry, this is not how we're going to do that, or that's not how we do this, but we can do it this way. And you're more than welcome to join us. If not, we'll do it and we'll come back. And it was like, whoa, okay, well, we'll just do it your way. And I was like, okay. So I did it. And there was, after everything, we're leaving and we were only there for the day and we were in the car and my husband's just staring at me. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, what's wrong with you? And he's just like, he has this huge smile on his face. And I'm like, okay, are you okay? And he's like, your presence today, the way you carried yourself is something I have never seen from you. He goes, it was amazing. He's like, you showed up today in a totally different way. He goes, and I'm just sitting here in awe because you made today exactly what you wanted. Okay. So that was it. And I left, Michelle, and for the first time ever, I left not regretting going. I left without guilt. I left without tears. I left without that. I left and I felt like I did it. I did it. And I can continue to do it.
Dang.
It was amazing.
I have goosebumps again, head to toe. Like, woo! I am so incredibly proud of you. I can't even. And I love it that your husband even picked up on the word presence. That's an energy that we hold within ourselves. And I think you even used the word earlier when you and I were talking about feeling grounded. You said, I'm just,
I felt grounded. I was so grounded. Like I was so in tune with my body. I was so in tune with how I was like, no one is going to make me feel any other way than how I want to feel. And if they do, it's not selfish to not want to be here. Like it is, that was one of the biggest things was I was always told that it's rude, you're selfish to want to feel a certain way or to change, or I was always self-centered was a big word is because I would say I don't like the way I feel and I want to feel this way, and they were like, well, you can't always have how you want to feel. But I'm like, understanding and growing up, boundaries give you that. You can feel how you want to feel. You just have to know how you want to feel, and if you don't know it, then you can't ask other people to let you feel that way or make sure that you feel that way. And I think that was the biggest thing. I didn't know how to set a boundary because I didn't know really how I wanted to feel. I didn't know what was right because I was always told so many different things, growing up, like that is not right. You're not supposed to feel that way. But I'm like, no, I want to feel good. I don't want to feel belittled and small. I want to feel strong and empowered. And I want to feel like I have a voice and heard and respected. And it's okay to be like, if you can't meet me there, I do not need to be here. And I did not ever know that. And it was probably the best feeling now to know that that is okay.
this is so good. I'm like, I'm so proud. I'm listening, going, oh, I'm in awe of you too. I'm like, oh my gosh. And the thing that I take away is that you chose this. You chose this. Like you said, you didn't leave feeling bad and small and shamed, probably is what you experienced. Because if you weren't showing up the way that they wanted you to show up, then you would basically get shamed or told you were wrong or you were bad or all of these things, which is a form of control and manipulation to get you to be who they want you to be. And now that you're an adult, it's time for you to say, hold on a second, what's true for me? And that, it seems to me, and please, I want to hear from you, was the pivotal point. Like, hold on. I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need to be a pleaser. I don't need to show up. And it's not to say, I don't hear that you were rude or you were mean at all. I hear that you were self-loving. I hear self-worth. I hear someone that is choosing their reality versus allowing others to dictate their reality, even when it feels yucky and bad. So you really were, the word you started out with, like, I feel empowered. Like, I'm like, here's an empowered woman sitting right here. Good for you. What caused you to start to choose this for yourself? Like, what was that? Was there a moment in time where you're like, hold on, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to have a relationship like this with them anymore.
It was the moment when how they spoke to me and when it was directed towards my children. It was that moment that I was like, I do not want my children to have that relationship, to grow up the way I did, to not understand that their feelings matter. And it was at that moment that I said, I have the power to change this. I have to work. Like that's the thing. You have to work. You have to figure out what you want because yes, everyone has the power, but if you don't know what you want, you can't go for it. You can't strive to, meet what you're looking for. So I had to, okay, I do not want this for my children. And what do I want for myself so they can see it? They can see, my daughter can see who, what an empowered woman is, or, and just what to expect, not to how to treat others and how you would like others to treat you. Like I said, words are powerful, whether they're good or bad. And I want my children to understand that your words and how you can take you places and can move mountains and can make you feel amazing if you know how you want to feel.
So that's beautiful what you just said. And I love that you modeled this for your parents or for your children, excuse me. You modeled this for your children. And again, you were inspired by your kids, it sounds like, but also what you did now is modeling for them like, wow, nobody should walk on me. Nobody should treat me like this. And you don't even have to sit your kids down and say, this is how you need to be treated. You doing this with your parents is modeling for them what's okay and what's not okay, and modeling boundaries, like really, really, really healthy boundaries. So when you say that you did this like self-inquiry, or like you sat with yourself, this is what people need to hear. How did you do it? So you said your kids really inspired you. What happened though? So you sat down, you did some journaling, and you sat down and did what else? What else did you do?
To be honest, I cried.
Yeah.
I just cried. I
Yeah.
cried because I didn't know. I was almost like hopeless. It was like I didn't know what else to do. So I just cried. I cried because I had been going through this for so long, and I cried because for a lot of things. I cried for my past. I cried for my future. I cried for my present. I cried because I've had the power in me the entire time, and I was never strong enough to use it. I cried because I kind of let myself down. And so I did. It was more just looking into myself, and not so much. You gave me so much when we spoke that one time, just so much about my boundaries and what I needed to do. So that's what really opened my mind. I needed to do it. No one else could do it for me. I was always like, how should I do this? Or how can I do this? And I was always asking questions, hoping someone else could give me the answer. But the truth was, no one else could give me that answer. I had to do it myself. So it was the letting out of, the cry, the tears, the journaling, the constant looking inward, like, how do I feel? Like thinking back to times in my childhood about when I felt great, when I didn't feel great. What did I do when I did feel great, and how I want to continue to feel that way, and how I will continue to make sure. I know there's going to be times in my life, well, things are not always going to go my way, and there are going to be sad moments, but I have the power in me to change it, to not be sad forever, to take that moment, to learn from it, and then to keep going. Because I think that's a big thing is if you don't sit there and learn from each moment, you cannot move forward. You cannot know exactly how you want to feel, because every moment it's like a teaching moment. You learn, do I like how I feel? Yes. No. You don't like it? How do you change it? And that was a big thing for me. I never was given that opportunity to really evaluate my feelings. So to sit there and do that, it took me 6 months, 6 months to sit there and really figure out what I wanted. Now I wasn't doing it daily, but it took me a while. Like I would go back to it and I would, how do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? And then it was just like, I figured it out, and there's no turning back now.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful. And a few things that you said, I just want to mirror back, which were beautiful again, is you had to grieve your past, present, and future. And perhaps that's what the tears were. Perhaps you did that with sitting and reflecting within self. Perhaps you did that with journaling, all the things, but you took that. I'm hearing self-care, really pausing and sitting and sitting with you. Only and then I hear forgiving yourself from the past. Again, all of the things. You did it beautifully. And the answers are within. And I find that as humans, we look outside of self for the answers. We look for other people to say, can you tell me what to do? Now, like you and I spoke, and I said to you six months ago, this is what you want to do. You're going to want to set boundaries. Da, 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 da. This is how you might want to do that. But then you had to do that work of, I don't even like to call it work. It's like self-exploration and getting clarity on what's true for you. So then you can set a boundary with energy. You've got to have the energy within self to set that boundary. Because just saying a boundary, I can teach people all day long. I can give you the words to say, but unless you have the energy within, then you can't set a firm boundary, because you got to have energy to hold the boundary up. And the only way to have the energy is to drop inside and do exactly what you did, which is what's true for you. Because within, we do the internal boundaries or internal values and morals and beliefs. You've got to know what those are for yourself. So you can stand up and realize, I got to protect these things. This is important to me. And then you speak. And that's what people need to be spending time with, is what's true for me, what's okay with me, and what's not okay. Right? So powerful.
You know, and I think one of the one things, real quick, one of the one things that I think is what's okay for you doesn't have to be okay for anybody else. And I think that was really, really strong, because what was okay for me, I do not care anymore if it hurts anybody else, because I need to take care of myself.
Wow. I'm going to drop the mic on that one. That's awesome. Yeah, because you know what? Especially when we are, and I have the codependency as well. And obviously this is something that you've been working through as well. And it's so hard. It's like our brains are wired to please other first. Our brains are wired to make sure you're okay. If you're okay, then I'm okay. And it's so to have these moments of self-reflection and clarity, it's huge. It rewires the brain in a healthy way. Because what you just said, and I hope people can hit rewind and listen to what you just said again and again and again. That's healthy. That's healthy. And you are one of the kindest, nicest people that I know. So that's not mean. That is not mean to put yourself first and tune into self and say, gosh, what is okay for me? And if I'm coming from my heart, which you are, it might not be okay with you. And that's okay. That's okay. Oh my gosh, this is such good stuff. Any last words, any words of advice or guidance or anything else you want to say?
Trust yourself. I think that's the biggest thing. Trust yourself. You know what you want, and just figure out how you want to feel. I think that's the biggest. I didn't know how to set a boundary. I didn't know what I wanted. And until I figured that out for myself, that's what gave me the power to not regret something I've regretted going or doing my entire life.
This is exactly what we are going to be talking about actually in March. It's building self-worth. It's finding that worth inside of us, like feeling like I'm worthy of even finding out what my values are and what's true for me. And I'm worthy of speaking up for myself and setting a healthy boundary. So really, really great stuff. And I love hearing that your husband was so blown away. Like, who are you?
Yep. I mean, he still randomly will tell me, I still cannot believe you did that. I'm like, well, that's the new me. So let's believe it. Let's believe it.
Yeah. And you know what? You're only going to grow it more and more and more from here. So this is such great stuff. Thank you so much. And keep doing that journaling and keep dropping inside of yourself. All the answers are within us. Everything. We've got to keep dropping inside of self, because that is where truth is. That's where we have to get to know who we really are. And it's all an inside job. And you did it beautifully. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for getting on the show with me. My hope was that you would help others in the world that are in similar places, and who the heck doesn't need to learn how to set healthier boundaries. It's a lifelong journey. So thank you for your time today and your story and your wisdom.
Thank you, Michelle.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed that show as much as I did. I'm telling you, I've listened to the show so many times now. Like, there's so many great takeaways. I would encourage you to absolutely listen to the show again with pen and paper, as well as please share the show to anybody that you know that needs boundaries. I'm here to help the world heal. And part of how we heal is learning how to set boundaries for ourselves. That is our birthright, to set boundaries. And so many of us do not know how to do that. And do not forget, I've got our self Worth bundle, which is at theadultchair.com/worthy. This is the bundle of meditations and journaling prompts in order to help you to build up your internal worth so that then you can set those boundaries. We've got to have inner worth that helps us then to speak up for ourselves. If we don't have that, it's hard to speak up. So enjoy that. Let me know how you like the show. Hit me up on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I would love to hear from you guys. But until next week, I will see you right here in the Adult Chair.